So this is how it all starts, and this is where it all ends. And that's the longest 18 seconds of my life.
It was black. My bad. Oh yeah, you're on.
We are. All right. Well, good evening, Australia. World. Welcome to Mastering Music Mastering Live. I'm Tony Jack, the Bear Mance. We're here at Deluxe Mastering, Melbourne, Australia, the world's most livable city for 7 times in a row. Love this place, and good to have your company. As after we've had a week off, this week I'm so happy to say I got my guest here, Lorenzo Sillitto, former Temper Trap member, guitarist in that band, and now does a whole lot of other shit, some of which I know about, a lot of which I don't know about, and we're going to find out about.
Hey, nice
Lorenzo.
to see you. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you, mate.
Yeah.
Lovely to have you.
Yeah, it's been a good day.
How's it been good?
Yeah.
What's been good about it?
Mainly spending it with my family, so that's, always a good day.
It is a nice day.
Yeah.
You got plans for Father's Day next week? Next Sunday? What are you going to do Father's Day?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know.
Probably do nothing with the family. Do something different.
Yeah.
Be unique, man. Be novel.
I might hang out with my dad, actually.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah. If he's around.
Is he around?
I don't know. He's away at the moment. He might
but he's like.
Oh, he's still around.
He's still around.
Yeah, he's still around.
He's still around. Okay, but so all right. So
sorry for confusing everyone.
That's right. No, it's confusing me, and that's not hard to do, mate. That's not hard to do. Well, listen, mate. Gotta say thanks for being on my panel. You did a panel with us a few weeks ago at the Croxton Park, and that was good to have you there. So we just thought we'd get you back to get a little bit more insight into you and what you do. I mean, a lot of people know about where you've been. But if you know what I mean, professionally speaking, but it's just like, what are you doing now? Because you're doing an agency. You got a booking agency now? Or?
No, I was working at a booking agency for a little while, but I recently just left there, actually just to focus on songwriting. To be honest, had a lot of opportunities come my way, fortunately, where people wanted to work with me, and it was kind of just one of those things where. The agency hat is kind of like a 24/7, 7 days a week kind of thing. And, the creative kind of side was taking a little bit of a back seat to that. And I just thought, I should probably focus on the thing that probably makes me the most happy.
Yeah.
So that's what actually I've been concentrating on a lot. I've been working on a project with a friend of mine that we're kind of, trying to maybe put out next year, which should be cool. And just doing that at the moment, which is really great.
So, can you talk about any people that approached you for to work with?
Recently I worked with Oscar Dawson, who is an old friend. He also plays in Holy Holy, and that was just kind of like fun. I worked with a band called The Vans.
Yep.
And I'm going to be doing a session with Racket in a couple of weeks, so that's kind of like the most recent stuff. And I've done things with the Pierce brothers.
How good are those boys?
Oh, legends.
I love their story. I mean, just a couple of guys who 2 years ago were busking, something like that, and they just they sold out the Croxton.
Yeah,
band room,
amazing, and just such legends as well. Really open, great to work with, and it's no wonder that people love them because they are just a lot of fun and infectious personalities. So, it's really great.
So, mate, what sort of songs are you trying to write?
At the moment, I'm actually, this project that I'm working on, it's only in the very infant stages, is kind of like a throwback to Betty Davis, which is like, just kind of like really grimy kind of funk, psych rock kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Which, there's not much of that stuff really going around. I think I listened to the Childish Gambino record, which was pretty much just like a homage to Funkadelic and Parliament and all that kind of stuff, which I've always really loved. And I don't know, I just kind of got the creative juices going a bit. So I just thought maybe we'd just go down that alley, rabbit hole for a little while. Yeah.
So when you record this, would you have your own band, or are you going to just call in your mates and get a few favours?
I'm working on it with a friend of mine, Arik Bloom, and
I know Arik.
Yeah,
Arik from Grid.
Yeah, from Grid.
Love Arik.
Does a lot of great things, and
fucking oath he does.
Used to be in a band called Pablo Disco Bar, which was a kind of funk band back in the early noughties. So we've been friends for a long time, and I think coming back to Australia and just being able to work with your mates on stuff is really, really fun. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like a passion project that we'll see what happens with it. We never really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you making your money these days? If that's not too rude, like how do you make your living now?
I'd rather not.
Okay. You said that before. I don't want to talk to you about it. He said, listen, you'll do a Bill Clinton on me.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I did not have financial relations with that company.
I did not have financial relations with that company.
Or that person.
Yeah. It's kind of a complicated situation where, obviously I'm still able to earn money from royalties. I do a bit of management work as well, but my wife actually is the main breadwinner at the current point, which is really great. So thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah.
And you got kids too, right?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids.
How old are they?
A boy who's almost 4 and a girl who just turned 2.
How do you find kids change your world as a musician?
Yeah, it just means less time. Just trying to find the time around being with them, and you don't have there's no more sleep-ins when you have kids.
Yeah.
So you can't have the late nights, like going in and being in the studio until midnight, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Even though I love doing that, you still have to get up at 7 o'clock every morning. So that's probably the hardest thing, that you don't ever get to sleep in.
Yeah, I think that's probably I've got a lot of admiration for people, particularly musicians and the ones who've got a tour, who manage somehow to either spend long amounts of time away from their family, which is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you experienced that when you were traveling with your previous band, right? Or they're just able somehow to bundle them together, get them on the road, get them out there, do their thing. Because I personally wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny in Temper Trap, he had a child just before we started the second album tour, which lasted about 18 months. And he was away pretty much the whole kind of first year of the child's life, which I couldn't imagine what that must have been like for him. Because when I took a step back, I had my children after I left the band. So, just watching him go through that, it was really stoic, kind of the way he kept, and, credit to his wife as well.
Yeah, I mean, I reckon there's no more. I mean, women are generally very compassionate, understanding for the most part, but I think to be a partner of a musician and artist, I think it needs a special breed.
It does.
A very special breed, because your job is not just a job, is it? It's a lifestyle, and there's no real 9 to 5. There's always something to do. There always can be something to do, and it's very hard to. I find it personally very hard to impose boundaries. Because I always because I love what I do. So it's easy to say, fuck it, I'll go and work late. Oh, fuck it, I'll go in early. Oh, fuck it, it's the weekend. I don't care because I'm enjoying it. But a lot of that stuff can really impinge on your life, particularly if you have to juggle, if you have a partner, if you have children, if you've got other things and commitments in the way, it makes it really hard. So I think for women particularly who are mothers as well, who really are the ones who keep it all together, and who, at least in my experience, at least in what I've seen, anything that you do to kind of thwart that makes it really fucking hard.
Yeah.
And puts a lot of pressure on, and I've seen a lot of relationships break up. And
I think the fortunate thing for us is that the girls, or we like to call them the wags, they were around from when we were really pushing to try and get somewhere. So when it all kind of came to fruition, they saw the sacrifice that we made, and obviously they made sacrifices as well, and we all kind of went along for the ride together, which was really, really lovely. So it was really good.
So how long did you guys end up staying together for in total?
The band's still going. They're about to play the Croxton actually.
Right. So how long when did you leave?
I left in 2000, at the end of 2013. So we'd just finished the second record, and I knew that I was about to have a child, and I think, music, it's a love job, and it's one of those, it's a privilege to be able to do it professionally. And unfortunately, at that point in my career, I was just kind of burnt out and not enjoying it anymore, and I just didn't know whether or not I could really continue on in that kind of capacity anymore. So I decided to kind of, take a step back and maybe just kind of move into a different direction and really kind of, still be in music, but just maybe just take a step back from touring and all that kind of stuff, because yeah, it's amazing, but it also is incredibly hard for all the reasons that we've just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you always want to do this? Was it something you always inspired towards?
Yeah, I mean, like, from a very early age, I was obsessed with music. I always have been obsessed with music, and I played music from probably I was 5 years old, started on violin, and then moved on, started playing guitar when I was 13. I played trombone at school. I played bass in the senior school jazz band, and then after I left school, I actually took a break for a few years because the program that I had done at school was quite rigorous. I kind of, again, was a bit kind of like, didn't know whether or not. I actually tried out for the VCA, but I got knocked back. And I think.
Did I tell you why? Or
I just wasn't good enough.
Good enough, just musically or theoretically? Or?
Yeah, well, I was playing bass. I wasn't playing guitar, and I'd only been playing bass for a couple of years, and I was going up against people who had probably been playing bass since they were like 13. So I just wasn't, and my heart wasn't in it. I was always a guitarist in heart. So
yeah. So what sort of things did you have to do? Like, do they give you?
You have to sit a theoretical exam, and then you have to do a practical exam, and all those types of things, and interviews and things like that. So, which I'd had experience in, but I just don't know if I was really in the mind frame to kind of properly put myself through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how'd you learn about your stuff? Just your self-taught, pretty much?
I had a friend of my sister's taught me guitar when I was early on, but I just pretty much just used to read magazines and pick up the licks in magazines. And Toby, who's actually in Temper Trap, we've been friends since we were like 13, so we used to play together when we were teenagers and stuff like that. So just always kind of banged around on the guitar and just slowly got better over time. And I think after I took the break, I just really started to just knuckle down and properly get into guitar. And I actually wanted to be a professional skateboarder, and I think
really.
Yeah.
So you were a good skater?
I don't know if I was good enough now, but I had a couple of injuries, and I think it was at that point where the doctor was kind of like, okay, you probably should stop skateboarding now. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll just put my energies into.
Was this after like 2 knee constructions?
I've had 2 shoulder reconstructions. Yeah.
You've actually have.
Yeah. I have.
Oh, they're the worst apparently.
Yeah. I actually popped my shoulder out twice on tour. Once we were in the bus in Germany, and I think that it was out of socket for like 3 hours, trying to get to a hospital.
That's
so
no fun.
Pretty excruciating. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that. Is that up there with tooth nerve ache and?
I've never had any tooth nerve aches. They say that's worse than childbirth. So
or kidney stones.
I've never had that either. So.
I don't recommend it. At all.
Yeah. So I think that's what really kind of forced my hand to kind of really knuckle down and get into music. And fortunately, I met the right group of people that were all as dedicated, I guess, to a cause as I was, and we just really knuckled down and tried to give it a red hot crack.
It's a big on that one. Just to get into a bunch of people that are all on the same page, and all there to egg each other on and support each other when someone's a bit down. But that's like the magic. It's the chemistry then to find a group where no one can really love. Especially if you birth a project on your own, no one's going to ever truly love it the way you do. But nonetheless, someone's going to come up with an idea or be a leader or something, and other people are going to join in. But to find those people that are dedicated though, and that's important because I see it a lot with bands, man. A band relationship is so much. It's like having, depending on how many members you are. I think if there's 3 members of the band, it's like having 3 wives in a way, And it's not just the issues of what's happening with band business, but then everyone's life sort of comes in at some stage, and so someone's having girl issues, or someone's having mental health issues, or someone's having creative, I don't know, whatever. But nonetheless, it so much more. It just exponentially creates more possibility.
Yeah.
For more shit to happen.
Yeah, totally. And that's it's kind of like a double-edged sword. That kind of stuff can really lead you to the gold, but it also can really be quite damaging. And as you said, it's a minefield. You really have to navigate, like your way through it so delicately at times. But when you do get through it and the highs are amazing, and that could even be, I remember, some of the greatest times for me particularly were like, when we first started going to Sydney to play shows, and we'd play at Spectrum, and we might not have been sold out, but there was just like the vibe in the room. And I think that helped spur us on to keep wanting to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the kind of, finding a good nucleus of people to work with, but also being able to, have those little kind of wins along the way that really help you, move forward and give you the hunger to really progress.
Do you have a particular gig that stands out for you to this day?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I think we played at the Fillmore in San Francisco, and like I owned probably a dozen live records that had been recorded in there.
Yeah.
Obviously like Hendrix and The Who and Cream and all this crazy stuff. And when I heard that we were playing there, I was like, oh man, that'd be amazing. And I thought, we're going to get a poster. And then I started hassling the poor woman at the venue going, oh, when are we going to get a poster? And she's like, you only get it if you sell it out. And I was like, oh, damn it. And then we sold it out. So I was like, yes, that's amazing. And that was just like, you walk in and it's just history everywhere. And, it actually feels like an old couch. When you're in there and you play on the stage. It's really cool. And like when we first played the Corner, that was a huge, like our own gig. We played there a couple of times before supporting other bands, but I think, it's just like an institution in Melbourne, and it was always like a benchmark for any aspiring musician, is that, to play a Corner and sell out a Corner, and then you go on to the Forum as well. And I remember playing the first Forum show, and every time we'd come back and play there, it was always just like amazing, because we always wanted to be able to play in those types of rooms. So when you finally do get to play them, it's very special.
Mm-hmm. So how do you find the difference between, like, when you start supporting bands, how was the experience support? Who are some of the bands that you did support, and what were some of the things you learnt dealing with some of these
one
bands?
Of the first bands we went on tour with was Howling Bells. Sydney band, really great, and that was kind of the first East Coast tour I guess we did, and it was fine. We got along really well with them, and that was great. And then we did a couple of things, but then I think the first incidents that we ever really had, we were supporting Kasabian at the Enmore. We did like 2 shows with them, and their tour manager was quite feisty, and he came into our dressing room for some reason and took all the chairs out of our dressing room and was just like, you guys have had too many people back here, so I'm going to just take all your chairs because the Kasabian need them. And we were just like, what is going on? And then he like threatened to like throw us off the tour for like nothing, and it was just really, really bizarre. But those kinds of things, you just laugh, like they're just hilarious.
Yeah.
I
imagine you got it. Well, I guess if you're used to doing headline shows and then having support, it's got to be an incredibly humbling thing, though, doesn't it? I mean, not to say that you have ego, you're humble because you have an ego, but when you headline, I find that I would imagine that if I was doing support, that would be something that it would humble you. You'd learn a lot. And you'd pick up on a lot of things to do and not to do.
Yeah, totally. I think the greatest thing about supports is that obviously you're supporting a band that's, been around for longer, had a better career, had a hit or something. And particularly early on, when you do those supports, you do tend to watch them, how they act on stage, what's happening with their crew, how they're setting up, how those kind of things go down, and you definitely kind of take them back and, you go, okay, we've got to be tighter here, we've got to, the set's not right, we've got to change the set, or, you can kind of really learn things from them. You also learn, like sometimes you learn, oh, okay, they're running tracks, so maybe we'll start running tracks, or those stuff, because I think that's what happened when we saw Kasabian, like, oh, they're running tracks. Like, we had no idea that
What do you think about that? Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it, to be honest, because I think everyone does it. Because unfortunately in this day and age, everyone wants everything to sound like the record. Right? But I think the bands who are able to do it without running tracks are amazing. Like I saw Queens of the Stone Age, they'd never run a track.
Yeah.
And, they're amazing. I know that Pond probably don't run tracks, and they're amazing. And even if they did, I wouldn't even care, because it's just part and parcel of the age that we live in.
Yeah. And if they do it seamlessly.
Yeah, as long as it's, vocals. I have a problem with vocals on track.
Yeah.
But, like if it's like stuff that you can't play, then it's kind of, I'm down with it.
Yeah, because I find I do a lot of that work. A lot of bands will come and say, we do backing tracks to live shows. And yeah. I find it's pretty common. Sometimes that on their own they sound okay, but obviously they're done a certain way because they know they're going to be embellished with more of this or more keys or more backing vocals or whatever. So I find that interesting, The
only thing I would say about tracks is that it makes your songs or your set rigid, right? Because you can't stray from it. You're on click. You got to follow the track. If you don't, then that's it. It's game over. Like, it's gonna sound shit if you. So that's the only one downfall of it, is that it makes what you're doing very rigid.
Doesn't allow for any spontaneity.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so
or very little anyhow.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the only drawback, I think.
Yeah. So how do you see the industry at the moment?
I think the Australian industry is amazing. There's so many amazing bands, so much music. We seem to be getting behind local artists a lot. I've been to a lot of shows this year, particularly where, crowds have been incredibly vocal for local acts and stuff. And maybe I was, maybe a bit too stuck up my own ass when I was going around. I don't think that really happened as much when we were kind of starting out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really great. In terms of like the global, look, I think the advantages of the internet and having so much stuff out there is incredible, because anybody who likes any type of music can listen to it anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
And as a music lover, that is amazing. Like, you can really immerse yourself in it. But unfortunately for musicians, it just makes it harder to kind of really I guess, shine bright amongst a billion stars.
Yeah, so, yeah. There's definitely a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of noise out there. And I think people's attention span, and I certainly, my attention span is not all that good. So I find that quite often I just mince through things really quick.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about, what are the next thing? I want you for the next thing was, because you got this fucking pile so high. And sometimes with music, sometimes music will either hit you really hard and there's the immediate, wow, it's amazing. And then there's other stuff that just takes, but you've got to give it time.
Yeah.
You just got to give it the time. And unfortunately, I don't think most of us have that time to sit down and, because some things are growers. That's just the way they are. And so a lot of stuff probably gets, swept on the carpet or overlooked because it's like, well, you haven't quite got me wet yet,
Yeah, exactly. You haven't got me hard. Yeah. Yeah. I'm an album guy. Like I'll get an album and the first thing I'll do is try and make the time to listen to it from start to finish.
Yeah.
And I think that the album is kind of like almost like an obsolete medium now. You make them because you love to make a record, but to be honest, in this day and age, it's just like you're better off releasing tracks, one a month or one every 3 months, and doing it that way, and just having a constant stream and never ever don't taking off. You're just constantly releasing music, and that's the way I think how it's gonna work in the future. Like people are just gonna maybe make less albums and just really just have like a never-ending flow of music coming through.
Yeah. I think that's probably a better way of doing it. I wouldn't. If I was an artist now, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do an album unless I was one of these artists that wrote an album. See, I think back in the day with albums, they were written and done to be heard as an album. If you know, they were constructed that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't just 10, 12 songs that randomly. There was a concept, there was a story, there was a narrative, there was something behind it. It was meant to be consumed that way. A lot of forethought went into it. Whereas now, I'm not saying that artists don't think about it at all, but again, unless I was an artist that was going to do a concept album, or these things needed to work together to make sense, if you will. But again, even so, most people don't have the time.
There was also obligation as well back then. They were obliged to make 2 to 3 records a year. That was like in their contract. They would have to do that. And the quality wasn't necessarily always great.
How do you, again, it's a debut, an artist comes along that's had a lifetime to create an album. They put it out, and of course, if it goes gangbusters, and then try to come up 12 months later and do it again, or 6 months. Tom Larkin was telling me this. I was at this Jeff Crabtree little talk that happened down in his studios in the city, and there's an interesting point someone made, which never occurred to me until then. But they said a lot of bands' second albums, follow up to, if they're really huge, usually are about life on the road, or missing family, missing friends. It's sad. It's sad, a lot of sadness.
Yeah, totally. I reckon our second album, the content in that was definitely a lot of maybe not life on the road, because I think we were like, let's not touch on that because it's so non-relatable. Because when you hear someone talk about life on the road and you're not a musician, you're like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
No offense to those people who are writing and pouring out their heart, but definitely, because relationships break up, things change. That's the job, but
and you got limited input. I think you got limited stuff to be. Well, you can always be inspired from things in the past, but you've had a whole life to write this record, or years to write this record, and then what's your life after that? Like, if you get signed, then you get snapped up. It's touring.
Yeah, I think touring cycles are the biggest thing, because touring cycles are twice as long now as probably what they did back then.
Yeah.
Like you constantly, and particularly if you have a successful record, you could be touring it for 2.5 years. That could be the life cycle of the record. And particularly in America, like the way that they like to stagger releases and singles and stuff like that, they may even reinvest in a single again, like towards the end of the campaign, to kind of give it a boost again. And, so yeah, it can be a very long time. And, I've spoken to Tom as well about, artists just not being prepared and maybe being a little bit burnt out, but they're, the need to be there and have because a follow-up record should pretty much come out the moment that you finish the touring the first record.
Yeah.
Like, in an ideal world.
Yeah.
Because you never want to be out of the public's eye. And that's why I think a never-ending stream of music now is the kind of go-to format, I think, moving forward for artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that it's that we're starting to talk more and more about is within our industry, and I guess it being on the road probably doesn't help a lot of people who go through it, but whole mental illness, amongst musicians and stuff. And so I was just curious to know, in your career so far, how much of that have you seen around you? Any first-hand experience of your own? Where do you think? What are some of the things that we can do to help address the issue overall? I mean, it's a very deep, wide, complicated issue, and there's no easy sort of answers to it. But is there anything that can be done, you think, to, I don't know, do we better educate musicians? Is it a case of more musicians maybe standing up and saying, "Hey, here's my story," and particularly the ones who either manage well with it or have come through really particularly dark patch and are doing well? Is it schools educate? Is it we've got all these music schools and stuff. Do they have a role to play maybe in educate?
I think most of the time, like if you get into a position where you're able to, if you get into the position of being kind of flung into the stratosphere and everything's going great, nothing can ever prepare you for that. You can read and people can try and tell you as much as you want, but no one really knows how each individual is going to react and adapt to those types of situations. And for most people, particularly when they write a song and it becomes a hit, it's kind of like even though it's not overnight, it kind of it just creates situations which you've never been in before. I think I think identification is probably the biggest thing, and I think it's up to the team around the people to maybe identify whether or not they see someone struggling or heading down a path that maybe might be destructive or whatnot, because there is a team of people around you. Maybe not so much early on, but there's always a manager or someone, and I think definitely being mindful of how people are traveling and just checking in, I think is one form of kind of not prevention, but I guess one step that you could take to make sure that people in the band or an artist is maybe like coping and having that open conversation, because when the pressure mounts, you close up and you don't really like express anything, because people want you to.
You think there's an expectation?
People want you to perform. It's not in their interests sometimes. It's like, but so I think it's just trying to be open, and also for people around the people just to try and make sure that their eyes are open and aware that maybe someone's not dealing with the situation. Yeah. I think awareness is great, and obviously with cases now we're starting to see more people, obviously in recent years, unfortunately, take their lives or whatnot, and it's tragic. I really don't know what the answer is, to be honest.
What I find interesting is that it usually takes a high-profile celebrity death to spark interest, or to reignite some sort of interest, and then it seems to be swept under the carpet, And for me, I talk about my stuff, not whatever stuff I may have been through, and when it's appropriate or relevant, I guess, But yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe it's something about getting older. I think older cats tend to be a little bit more comfortable, I guess, because they're just, again, they've just gone past that, or more past that point of not giving less of a fuck about what people think, or about their reputation, or or expectation, particularly if they're not in the public eye. And like you said before, some people feel this expectation that they have to be on all the time, at least when they're in the public eye. And I can't imagine what that'd be like. I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to have a life like that. Like I'm not a pop star, anything like that, but I don't have to worry about, like I've got to be a certain way, or there's a expectation of me to be a certain way.
Yeah.
When I'm out and about, whereas with musicians and stuff. Yeah, man. I don't know. I would have fame any day. I wouldn't want to be famous.
Yeah. Yeah, but some people love it.
I'm sure.
So some people do love it, and that's great. Let them take it.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it just can't last, though. It's.
Yeah.
Listen, I would not begrudge anyone who wanted to be famous. If that's your deal, man, fucking God bless you. Go out there and do it, and no reason why you can't do it. Not encourage you to go, but I think it's when the fame is more about fame for the fame's sake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think for musicians, the first and foremost, it should always be about the passion of wanting to be a musician. And then, if you do become famous, then that's amazing. But, and then if you want to take it further, become a model.
Yeah,
Go for it.
absolutely,
That's great.
absolutely. So I didn't know. I didn't know up until tonight earlier. You said you spent 7 years in London.
Yeah.
So why'd you go to London? How did that all start?
So basically, I guess the band had been in existence here for probably about 4 or 5 years. And throughout that time, we used to hassle our manager all the time, like, we got to get out of here. People don't understand us. We've got to get out of here. The classic kind of questions that probably every manager has ever heard. That
Understand you in what way? Just you
well,
musically,
at the time, we were kind of like, not, Cut Coffee and Midnight Juggernauts and those types of bands are really, really popular. And, we were friends. We used to play shows with those guys and stuff. And I guess we just didn't really fit in anywhere. It just, well, maybe that's the way we saw it. We kind of, what we were doing at that point in time wasn't really like, like I remember we went on tour with Dappled Cities Fly, or Dappled Cities now, and then when we came out after we recorded the record, we played Big Sound. We played on the same stage as them, and after we played, we came off and they just kind of looked at us and was like, "What the fuck happened to you guys? Where have you been hiding?" Like, because we're like a completely different band. But it was everything that we were kind of working towards. But it just kind of hadn't maybe shown at that point.
Yeah.
So we played Big Sound, and then there was a guy there called Sat Bisler, who runs Muse Expo. And he was like, I want you guys to come over to the UK to play Muse Expo. So we were like, yes, this is the chance. So that was in October. So we went over and then we played, can't remember what it's called. Damn it. Oh, it's in like New York. James C? No, not James C.
No, it's
something like there's a music festival in New York around that time.
I think a Winter Music Conference. That's down.
Anyway, I can't remember.
Someplace in New York.
Yeah. So we played those, and fortunately, out of that, we got a couple of people overseas interested in us. I remember we played at this place in London, first gig. And I've never been so nervous in all my life, like literally shaking like that throughout the entire gig. And then, kind of came back to Australia and this guy, Corder Marshall, who's quite well known in the UK, is like an A&R guy. He was like, I really want to sign you guys. Didn't have a record label, had nothing. He was like, I'm going to set up a record label and you're going to be the first act and we're going to put out the record. And I was like, wow. And he had a really good relationship with Michael Gudinski because he used to run Mushroom UK way back in the day. So he signed us, and I think a part of that, he was like, okay, in order for me to really help you here, you need to be here. So fortunately, he fronted the money for us all to move over there for the first 12 months, and all of our girlfriends moved over. So we moved to Hackney, which I was saying to you earlier is like kind of like the Brunswick of London. Back then, the only reason we moved to Hackney was because nowhere else in London would actually rent us a house, because no one wants to rent a house to a band, right? Okay. So we got this house, and our girlfriends, they lived there and we were never there. For the entire year, we were just like on tour.
Wow.
And so fortunately for them, they had free rent for the year, but we were pretty much in a splitter van for the entire year. And so that's how that happened. And during that year, Sweet Disposition kind of, entered into the charts. And then just purely by playing shows and festivals and keeping backing out, doing support shows and festivals and playing and going around, it just slowly creeped up the charts. And then it ended up at number 5 in the UK charts. And it was kind of crazy. And then from there, it just kind of exploded after that.
So tell me, around that time, to have an album on the charts at that level, did that actually mean actual money? like in terms of sales? Did it actually have some real worth for you
Um,
guys, or was it just something that gave you and kept you in the consciousness of the public long enough to?
yeah, I think like we were a couple of things really helped us. Like in that time that I was talking about, where we first went over to the UK and started getting a little bit of interest, we had a friend of our managers. He does a lot of licensing in the US, and he managed to get us on a movie called 500 Days of Summer, and that really also was one of the catalysts to really helping our career as well. Like
Yeah.
we got a sync in that became like the indie movie of the year. And we were in Sweetest Edition was quite prominent in that movie. So I think it was more licensing. We had a lot of big licensing things happen kind of along the way, as well as playing, and then obviously in the charts, and we had like a massive kind of like dance remix as well that kind of popped off in Ibiza and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a load of different things that kind of helped us kind of propel the whole thing. Yeah, it's kind of hard to point to one direct thing. But in terms of money, I don't think record sales was really helping us at that point. I think it was more licensing and playing. And we had shocking merch. We were terrible at merch. Yeah, like kids, get merch like right, and then you'll be happy days.
How do you get it right?
I have no idea. I have no idea how to get it right. Lots of people do get it right. I don't know. It's so important.
But is it the design? Is it what you offer?
It's just got to be a good representation of your fan base. So I think for us, we never knew or understood our fan base. I know that sounds terrible to all you fans out there. I'm really sorry, but we just because our fan base was so broad. Yeah, it was really hard to kind of just like go in and create an item that everybody would want to buy. We finally did it, but it was probably too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, merch is such a massive part now. Yeah, like Justin Bieber, I think he sold God knows how many millions of dollars in merch when he was here.
Well, speaking of him, he's apparently the tour is meant to go on. He's cancelled it now, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, again, just reading online that he said, you know what, I can't do this. This is really fucking with my mental health and my life and everything. And now he's come up with all these claims about the industry being run by some elitist pedophile network and all that.
Wow.
So I get, again, anything I see online these days, it's hard for me to verify. I mean, it's easy to make it look like this is authentic and this is the real fucking deal and this is gospel.
I think there's bands in Australia that do great, like Violent Soho, right? They have amazing merch. They have such good merch that I want to buy it.
Yeah.
And I love those guys, but it just speaks to their fan base so well, and it's a representation of them, and it's a representation of the people that like their music, and it's cool. Like you could just wear it, so they've just got it right. And it is just I think you just play around with it and try a lot of different things and see what sticks, but. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, well, that's how most of my clients find that's how they make their touring. But merch. Usually it's merch and CD sales or vinyl sales.
Yeah, $4 a head. That's what you got to be making.
Yeah, and but it's great that at least they're still moving some physical copies. I mean, vinyl's still amazing. It's still there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's come back. Again, it's geeks like me that like records. So, yeah. It's nice to have that kind of physical, tactile.
It is nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's better than a CD.
Yeah, although CDs will become boutique again.
Yeah. Do you know what I do miss is liner notes?
Yes.
That's as a young musician, you always wanted to read who the personnel were, where it was recorded, maybe who the extra personnel on the album was.
Yeah.
When you download a record now, you can't. They do sell the digital book, but you don't really you can't sit down and look through it, or
it's not the same. It's not the same.
Thank yous. There's no point in putting a thank you on a record anymore, even though it's kind of important. But
yeah. But I miss the liner notes too, and that's pretty much how I got into music. Just as a kid, just looking at album liner, because back then there was a lot of albums, a lot of thought about packaging and just always everyone's trying to one-upmanship each other with, with double sleeves and books and posters and, like, do you remember that record by Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick?
I don't know that record, but yeah.
Okay, well, Thick as a Brick was, again, this is just a genius idea of an album that opened up to become like a tabloid newspaper.
Oh, wow.
And so, like you'd read all through, and it was all just a piss take, really. Everything was, but everything was, written around this town, and so they have little advertising, little editorials, little stories, little things, and like if like a lot of thought went into it, but it was just such a cool idea. Sit there and fucking read this newspaper,
yeah,
of an album, I love that kind of shit. I mean, I guess CDs it makes it a bit harder. CDs, you're limited in space and everything, but liner notes, man, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, I miss that a lot. I miss being able to read through all that kind of stuff.
Again, that's all sort of limited. So, listen, one of the things I was going to ask you is, like, with kids today who are aspiring towards getting into music, I mean, I know there's never a simple answer, so this is just your perspective and where you come from. So, for someone who's a kid at school and they're a musician and they feel that they want to give it a crack, whether they're writing or playing or whatever. And for the most part, when you're outside, you really don't know, how do I start, where do I go, who do I see? And like I said, I know there's no one direct path, but, if some kid came to you now and said, look, I'm finishing school, I'm at uni, and I really want to give this a crack, what are the things that they probably should be looking at doing, any skill sets they should be cultivating?
Well, I would suggest that they finish their study at university first, so they always have something to fall back on.
Okay.
That's probably my dad had.
Did you go to uni yourself?
I tried and failed.
Okay.
So, yeah, I tried a couple of things. First one, there was unfortunate circumstances at the time, so I didn't finish that. And the second one, I just failed because I could never get over statistics. It just used to just block me. So, but yeah, But I guess the main thing is just it's work ethic and it's dedication to it. Like anything, you have to put the time in. There are going to be times where it's shit, but you got to be resilient and like try and push through, and just have a really dogged and like attitude to it.
Yeah.
That, like I'm going to do it because I want to do it, and it makes me happy, and if it gets you somewhere, fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You should always be doing it because you love it. Never do it because you think you're going to become like wealthy or rich and famous. You got to do it because you love it, and that's the first and foremost, and will always be the thing that carries you through at the end of the day.
So just be honest with yourself about why you're doing it. Like, first of all, really establish.
Exactly.
Really, in all honesty, why am I doing it and why? What's the purpose behind me wanting to go down this path?
Yeah, and I think, for me, it was fortunate, as we mentioned earlier, that I was able to find a group of people that we all came together and it worked, and we kind of were able to kind of push each other along. Whereas now, a lot of people just go at it alone. So it's probably a lot harder, and but I think that the same things, are true. All the people that are successful are successful because they just do what comes naturally, and they're not trying to pretend to be something else. And that comes through in everything that they do.
Yeah, playing to your strengths, understanding where your weaknesses are, and just being able to cooperate with other people.
Yeah.
And being okay with letting go of stuff. Just saying, as much as a lot of people like to do everything because usually it's a financial necessity, because everything costs money, whether you need a PR person, a marketing person, a photographer. And look, there's no shortage of people that are happy to offer themselves to do things for others. But from an artistic point of view, it's very hard to let go sometimes if you have a particular vision and you want a certain way, and some things just do require that. But there's the price of, obviously, you can burn out. But
I think it's important to do it, though. You've got to go through the process of doing it yourself, because then when you do have the opportunity to link up with people that can help you, you're just you know what needs to be done.
And it helps to be conversant with the person you're dealing with, so you can better articulate the vision. But sometimes you may, even if you aren't a professional in that field, if you have some idea about, let's just say you're a musician and you're talking to a video guy, an editor, whatever, and you've tried it yourself, and yes, you're probably not as good, but at least you understand the mechanics of how it works, you know what the challenges are, but you also may have come across something that, look, I'll give an example. In what I do, I have clients there's a myriad of clients, but those ones who actually do their own mastering, they dabble in it, they do their own study into it. It's great because they can come and they can be very particular about what they're looking for, but also bring something else to the table, where things I've never considered through their own dabbling that I'd never thought of before. I thought, we could try that. That'd be really cool. So I think there's a lot to be said about what you're saying, and get your feet wet in all the different areas to be conversant with it, so that when you do speak to someone, they're not going to pull the wool over your eyes, or at least you'll be able to better express what it is that you want and throw a few constructive, ideas into the mix. I
think it's really important now, and we spoke about this in the panel, is just social media is key now too. So the two things for any aspiring musician are to obviously write and play shows and get better at that craft, but also engage with your fan base, whether it's 5 people or 500 people, just engaging with them, giving them little tidbits about stuff, because that's what people love now. They love to be involved and be part of the process and feel that they're there. And it's it's always the fans that are there at the beginning are kind of always the ones, once you become huge, they're the ones to fall off or go, well, I was there from the beginning, and they've changed or whatnot. But that's what makes it so great. We had this girl, Funky, and her husband used to come to every show when we were there, and it was just so rad, and then when we finally played, at the Forum or something, we were able to, we recognized that they had been there from the very beginning, and so they would never ever pay for a show again, and but we didn't have those opportunities to engage with them. We just engaged obviously after shows, because we just noticed that they were there all the time. But fans, they're the people that keep you there, so you've got to engage and be part of their lives, and they can be part of yours.
I think that's the thing I'm noticing more online now, is that it's social media. I think initially was more about trying to sell something, whereas now it's less about trying to sell a show or sell something, as opposed to just sharing who you are and just documenting. Gary, Vanderchuck, there's a guy, on media guy, entrepreneur, who talks about this stuff, and he's saying now it's just document. And so, and so stuff that other people may think is pretty frivolous, but it's, before you're talking about liner notes, right? Whereas now in the digital age, the liner note now is actually being in the studio and seeing what's actually happening, or going to, seeing, again, all this Facebook Live stuff that we're doing, actually, being inside. Because, years and years ago, with the artists that we, there was no Instagram, there was no fucking Twitter, there was no, what access did you have? You didn't have that much at all, other than you were lucky to see something in a magazine or street press, and it was usually a photograph, and what else? Just what you were told. Whereas now it's clubs off, everything's open.
Yeah.
And people are interested. They're fascinated by the world of people who are not part of the. Again, it's funny how I still get questions from people about who's the biggest band you play with, or this fascination about stuff that's outside their world. And these are questions I get a bit sick of listening to, because it's just it's not about, you don't get it. It's not about that. It's not about being with famous people, or I don't make people famous. So, it's just, if they're famous, they just happen to be famous. And I just got lucky that we just crossed paths for 30 seconds. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this real intrigue to, to find out, and I can understand now. I mean, even for me, I've been intrigued to find out what, Hollywood people get up to and stuff like that. I mean, you know, I don't lose sleep over it, but I can understand the appeal.
Yeah, for sure. I follow The Rock on Instagram.
Yeah, you love him?
It's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
He is. If anyone wants to know how to engage on social media, follow The Rock.
Yeah.
He is incredible. Yeah. Makes you cry, makes you laugh, makes you want to go to the gym. Like he does it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great story.
Yeah, he's a great story. So
have you watched Ballers?
yeah, I watch Ballers, yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I don't have pay TV, so
I don't either. Yeah.
Oh, you just download
it. Stream it. But yeah, he's great. But that's the one. They're the things, you know. Just got to do what you love. If you do what you love, that'll come through, and people will like it. It's the same in anything in life. I reckon.
It shows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it really shows.
Yeah.
I think even people that don't really understand music can sense when it's a good like playing. I mean, I'll give an example. My kid, who doesn't really know a lot about music, knows what she likes, but actually could say, sounds like they're having a good time. Like, so how do you know that? Like, do you know what I mean? There has to be a very genuine vibe coming out that you pick up on that just makes you feel, that was a good day in the office, or things were clicking. You just sense that the fun or the whatever it is.
There's nothing better than discovering a song that you've never heard before and it automatically resonates with you. There's like no greater feeling in the world.
It's the magic.
Yeah, it's magic.
That's.
I still get that, you know. Like there's still stuff that I hear and I'm like, fuck, God, that's amazing, and I'll listen to it like 4 times in a row. And it's just like blows my mind.
Isn't it great when that still can happen? Especially when you've been in music all your life, you've heard so much shit, and for that, there's something that comes through like that and still give you that feeling of like, when you're a kid, and and it just lifts your spirits, and it takes you to a certain time or place or whatever, And it's usually, I don't know about you, but usually for me it's the most simple music. It always seems to be stuff that's really simple. 2, 3 chords, almost sometimes it can be monotonous, but a riff. It's all about a riff in my view. If you can write a good hook,
you're done.
And then if you can be like AC/DC and almost rework one hook
over and over and over again.
That's like Coca-Cola 7X magic formula.
Yeah. Nothing better. Yeah, I'm into that.
Do you remember? I know that reminds you. Did you ever see an interview once when I think it was when AC/DC released Black Ice, and a journalist? I'm just paraphrasing here, but a journalist was saying, "Well, how's it feel when people tell you that this album sounds like 17 times, like 14, 15 albums in the same AC/DC album?" And he pulled and said, "No, correction." He said, "It's not the 14th or 15th. It's actually the 16th time we've done that."
That's awesome.
I thought that was fucking great.
Yeah,
hey?
Yeah, they're the best.
Oh, they've got to be my all-time favorite band. Yeah. I mean, for a while I couldn't. When people say, "Who's your favorite band?" I said, "There's that many," but I think now, when I think about it, if you said, "Look, you're living on this island. You're never going up. The only catalogue you can have, just give them an AC/DC catalogue."
I need something with a bit more dynamic range. That's my personal.
Yeah, that's
opinion,
So who would it be for you? One artist. You got one
Prince, probably.
Yeah.
Because it's vast.
Have you seen Andy De Silva's Prince tribute thing?
No.
Go and fucking see it, man. It's fucking awesome. Like he is like his band are just so on point, and they just fucking do such a good job.
Actually, maybe it would be Bowie, maybe more Bowie. I don't know. It just depends. Like there's so many. I don't want to be stranded on a desert island. There's too many decisions to make.
I don't know. I can live on an island for a while.
Yeah, I could definitely live on an island, but I don't want to have to like sacrifice everything that's out there.
And only have one band to fucking listen to.
Yeah. Coconuts would get bored.
Coconuts are good, man. I've got no issue with coconuts. I like it. Actually, I've got a friend of mine up in. Hopefully we'll go up and see him soon. He goes and he harvests coconuts on resorts. So it's seasonal work, and he also goes out on boats and does fishing. And there's something I like about it. Just get a coconut off the fucking plane,
crack it open.
It's fucking awesome. Yeah. Drinking the water out of it, scooping all the shit, doing the coconut. It's fucking great. Anyway, mate, such a pleasure to see you. We're going to wrap it up.
Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, we're still going to do some lunch tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
Beautiful. Go break bread. Be wogs.
Yeah.
Be like good proper wogs, mate. Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for having
mate.
me.
Good to have you. Good
Cheers.
chatting. Good having you. So, is there anything on? People find you on social media?
Not really. I have an Instagram account. I'm not on Facebook. So yeah, I'm pretty incognito at the moment, but that is likely to change probably
with the new project that you're putting together.
Well, yeah, I'm just like redoing my studio and doing a few things like that. So I think towards the end of the year, I'll be making an announcement of some things that are coming. But at the moment, I'm a little bit silent.
Yeah, that's okay. You're just in the back. Everything's working away.
Just working in
clicking
the background,
away.
just settling in and yeah.
Will the studio be predominantly for your use? It'll be your.
Yeah, I think it will be. Yeah, it's at my house at the moment.
Yeah.
So until I can get out of the house, then yeah, it'll be predominantly for my own use or for people that want to, for friends that can come over and use it.
Yeah.
But
for collabs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing now. Artists can have their own studio at home and people can make some really nice rooms.
You don't really need to have a lot anymore.
Nah.
To do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend yesterday about he wanted to set up his own mastering thing, and when I sat down, I said, really, this day and age, you really don't need that much. There's a lot of good shit you can get now in the box. Just get a room relatively sorted and get used to the monitoring, and after that, it's just rolling up your sleeves and doing the work.
It's all about the song.
It is always, mate. It is always about. I've always said that. That's why I've always had such great respect for songwriters because. Fuck, it's got to be the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. To write a epic pop song is a very hard thing to do.
And even though they're all 3 chords or 4 chords or whatever, still it's even though you've got your basic ingredients, it's still like okay, well we all got the same notes and chords and have to work with, but the combination of those chords and the arrangement and melody.
Yeah.
Melody man.
And harmony.
Fucking hell, just to write a good melody. Anyway, good to see you, mate.
Cool, thanks for having me.
Soon. All right, we're out of here. Thank you so much for those of you who've joined us tonight. It was fun. We're going to take next Sunday is Father's Day, so being a dad myself, I'm going to take the day off. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, but we'll be throwing bits and bobs up on the Mastering Music Mastering Live Facebook page. All right, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and as always, say please be nice to each other, but more importantly, be nice to yourselves. Love you, fucks. Have a good night. Talk to you later.
Nice one.
And there you go, my friend.
Thanks.
That's a podcast. That's up in the ether.
Well.